Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and after hiring David Blau last night, and just to let you know, I'm working on a part 2 video. The first one was like my first reaction to how everything went down, my initial thoughts on everything. Now I've taken the time to really dive into and do some deep research into David Blau, and be on the lookout for that video, because that video is going to be a lot of fun. That video is going to be even better than the last one. I'm telling you, like, we have play calling experience examples, all of that type of stuff. But most importantly, today, the Commanders went ahead and interviewed another defensive coordinator candidate in Dinard Wilson. We got to dive into his history and stats with the Tennessee Titans as their defensive coordinator. We got to dive into his proof of player development. We have to dive into his defensive scheme and philosophies, like what style of defense does he deploy. I have all of that and more ready for you, bro. And I'm telling you right now, fans are caping for him. Teams are fighting over him. So we're going to dive into who this guy is, where he came from, and just to go ahead and give you a heads up, big time local guy, straight DMV. But before we get into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinion video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Appreciate y'all for supporting every single video. Shouts out to the watch to the end gang, man, that watches all of my videos all the way to the end. Really appreciate y'all. Shouts out the Noti gang that are on the videos immediately. Shouts out to the late night crew that's going to be watching this late tonight. I'll be up with y'all working on this David Blau video that I cannot wait to get out to y'all, because I promise you, if you're one of those people that are still on the fence on David Blau, this video is going to convince you to come on the other side, along with me and a lot of other Commanders fans that are already very excited. I can't wait to dive into that, but stay tuned for that. Shouts out to the early morning crew. The first thing you do is pull up a StreetScores video. I appreciate y'all as well. Without further ado, let's go and dive into this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. Alright, so this first came up at 4:30 p.m. and I'm recording this right now at 6:08 p.m. So it took me about an hour and a half to get all my research and stats and all of this stuff that I'm presenting to you in this video, just to kind of give you a timeline. It took me about an hour and 30 minutes to get the stuff ready for this video that I'm now recording and presenting to y'all. But Jeremy Fowler, 4:30 p.m. earlier today, as in Saturday, January 10th, and I'm missing this Rams-Panthers game because of this, but Dinard Wilson interviewed for the Commanders defensive coordinator position today, per source. Not requested, actually interviewed. Like, it's already done. Some of these names that we've brought up, that we've mentioned, has been floating around the past few days. You know, maybe virtually some have been interviewed, but like some of them were just purely request, and we haven't even heard whether the guy has actually come in for an interview or not. This guy has already officially gone through the interview process, and I think that means something. I think somebody that's already been through the process, it may show how much they're prioritizing this guy to where they wanted to go ahead and get him in as soon as possible. But he is the veteran NFL coach that was the Titans defensive coordinator over the last 2 seasons. And I'm surprised that the Titans didn't block him from even being able to get interviewed, which is going to be something we dive into later, because a lot of people love this guy. I'm surprised the Titans aren't planning on keeping him, but we'll see. But first of all, what immediately caught my eye was the fact that he was a local guy to the DMV area. Like, he's one of y'all for real, for real. Like, he's born in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, went to high school at DeMatha Catholic in Hyattsville, Maryland, played college football at, you guessed it, University of Maryland. He went undrafted in 2004. He played the safety position, and then guess what team he played for the one singular year that he was in the NFL? The Washington Redskins. I mean, this is as local as it gets. I'm surprised when and I'm gonna show y'all some interviews, some clips that he's brought up, because I want him to explain his defensive philosophy to y'all exactly. I'll break down some of it, but I want y'all to hear it from him, like from the source himself. But you know, the reason I'm bringing that up now before I show it to y'all way later in the video is because I don't hear any DMV accent from this man at all. So I was shocked, but either way, of course, When you think of the Tennessee Titans defense over the past 2 years, the first thing that comes to mind is that December 1st game, 2024 season, Jaden Daniels' rookie year, where we go all the way to the NFC Championship and everything. We beat the Titans 42-19. I believe that was our biggest point differential game of that entire season, if I stand corrected. So I know a lot of people have a bad taste in their mouth and think, wait, isn't that the defensive coordinator that allowed us to put up 42 points on them boys? And I get it. I understand. But before we let one game cast all the judgment that we need for Dinard Wilson's defensive coaching ability, listen to these excellent points and testimonies from people that have really sat down and watched Tennessee's defense the past 2 years, like loads and loads of tape on Dinard's coaching ability. First up, you have at SAVFIER on Twitter saying, solid coach in a brutal situation. Hope he gets another shot. And I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, that's the general theme of a lot of this. Like, shouts out to Terry McCormick pointing out the fact that Dinard Wilson said, we always say next man up. But it's hard not having the 3 players we started the year with at cornerback. I mean, they've dealt with so many injuries similar to us. You know, we had a lot of injuries. He's been dealing with a lot of injuries, and people are even making memes about how, you know, they put up that boy in jail meme of him saying, I'm fighting for my life. Like, Dinard Wilson was going through it, and you could argue he did the most with what he could. Like, even Music City Nick on Twitter posted a general question for all Titans fans to discuss. He said, Titan fam, if the decision is up to you, would you retain Dinard Wilson as defensive coordinator or move on? Then you have one person say that he's done a good job with the personnel he's been given. I'd say keep him if they can't get Morris or Gannon to be defensive coordinator. But for somebody to consider this guy lower than Morris worries me, because I do not like Raheem Morris, but I do love John Gannon from the Arizona Cardinals. He said, all depends on who the new head coach is. If we hire the first-time candidate, I want an older, more experienced defensive coordinator. I'm not mad at that. Somebody else said so many injuries to our secondary, it's tough to fairly judge the job that he did. I don't see the harm in giving him another year. And then, I mean, there's a whole lot of other testimonies that are somewhere around that, just under that one thread alone. But then, shouts out to Dinard Wilson himself. He said the big lesson he learned from this unique season, and we're talking about 2025, this interview happened December 30th, 2025, like just literally 11 days ago. He said the biggest lesson he learned was to never make excuses, no matter how difficult times got, never waver. That sounds like something Dan Quinn would want, you know, mentality-wise in his coaching staff. Shouts out to Deontay Lee. He said the Titans' defense was much better than he got credit for this last year. They still need real pass rushing juice, but Dinard Wilson has been one of the better play callers over the last 2 years in the entire NFL and deserves more national credit for making a viable unit out of what he was working with this past year. Also, shouts out to Justin M_NFL. Not a Titans fan, not a Titans reporter or nothing. Completely neutral analyst outside looking in said, Titans defensive coordinator Dinard Wilson is absolutely a good coach. I doubt the Titans' next head coach will consider keeping him, but I wouldn't be opposed. Coaching matters. The defense has less talent than the offense, in my opinion, yet they are significantly better than the offense. And then shouts out to Justin M_NFL again. He said, I firmly believe Titans defensive coordinator Dinard Wilson is a good coach. Technically still with Tennessee, but he's allowed to interview elsewhere while the Titans are undergoing their head coaching process. He's been a dang fine defensive coordinator. Personnel was a recurring issue and a revolving door. Then you have Easton Freeze. He said a good ball coach, in my opinion. Really enjoyed Dennard being here in Tennessee, where he underwent 2 years of biblical trials with personnel on his side of the ball. He just kept having pieces taken from him, and all you could do was laugh at times. So again, Titans fans are caping for this guy. Shouts out to this Dolphins fan. He said if the Dolphins land Harbaugh, I hope that he brings Dinard Wilson as defensive coordinator. He coached the secondary in Baltimore before DC with the Titans this past year, and he's a smart dude, hard worker, gets the most out of his guys, and still relatively young, which we're going to dive into later, because Dinard Wilson is, in fact, only 43 years old, and that's pretty young in the coaching world, especially when we're talking about defensive coordinators. And again, this is a Miami Dolphins fan. Or how about this Ravens fan? Pointing out the fact that in 2023, the Ravens had defensive coordinator Mike McDonald, DB's coach Dinard Wilson, and defensive lines coach Anthony Weaver, and we ended up with Zach Orr as our defensive coordinator in 2024, and he's basically crying about that fact, and he wishes that they would have kept Dinard Wilson instead as a defensive coordinator, or Mike McDonald or Anthony Weaver, at least one of those guys over Zach Orr. Again, Dinard Wilson included. And also, back in February 2023, before the 2023 season went down, Honest NFL said, I hope Dinard Wilson gets promoted to defensive coordinator for the Eagles. Back with his time when he was still like the defensive backs coach for the Eagles, he said that he deserves it. And then shouts out to Doug Rush, moving back to January 10th of 2026, like literally earlier today. He said Dinard Wilson was one of the top defensive coordinator candidates Brian Daboll was interested in after Wink Martindale left in 2023, but he went to Tennessee and the Giants ended up with Shane Bowen because of it. So this is just further proof not only do fans, but coaches around the NFL recognize that this guy is a pretty good defensive coordinator, at least has the potential to be. Now, before we go back into his history and his coaching timeline to really break down like where he's been, which other great defensive minds in the NFL he's learned under, what are his defensive philosophies, what are his proven player development, before we get into all of that, shouts out to Sleeper, man. And with them, you have a chance to 1,000 times your cash on daily fantasy football. As I'm talking right now, the Rams and Panthers are having themselves a great game, and with Sleeper, you have a chance to make these games even more fun than just watching it by yourself, man. Shouts out to Sleeper. Again, with them, you have a chance to turn $1 into 1,000 depending on how you finesse it. And we still have a lot more NFL playoffs to go. We have a college football championship coming up. And even after the NFL and all football is done on all levels, we still have the NBA All-Star Game, NBA playoffs, March Madness, hockey, baseball. You can get into all of that with Sleeper. You can pick on stats for these NFL playoffs alone, like touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, fantasy points, and more for, again, up to 1,000 times your payout on Sleeper. And right now, new users can even get a free $20 without a deposit on top of the already 100% match up to $100 on your first deposit using promo code SCORE, that's SCORE, or to make it even easier for you, you can just click the link at the top of the description of this video and every video on live stream I'm doing all season long. Again, shouts out to Sleeper. They're here year round, so even when football is done, that does not mean that Sleeper is done. Stay tuned, have fun, and make some money, man. Now let's get back to Dinard Wilson. First of all, again, Dinard Wilson, 43 years old, not that old, you know, somewhat up and coming. Now, granted, compared to a David Blau that is literally 30 years old, 3-0, I mean, that's as up and coming as it gets. I mean, again, I'm gonna dive deeper into that in my second David Blau video breakdown that I'm gonna come out with probably late tonight or early tomorrow morning, where, like, I mean, he's even younger than Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay when they got the opportunities. My main reason of bringing that up, that it's not fair to say that Dinard Wilson isn't a young and up-and-comer defensive coordinator either, just because he's 43. David Blau being 30 is unprecedented. Like, he's weird the other way. Dinard Wilson at 43 is actually still pretty young defensive coordinator-wise. Now, even moving on from that, he worked as a pro scout for the Bears before beginning his coaching career with the Rams back in 2012 as their defensive quality control coach. He worked his way up to DB's coach before taking the same job with the Jets in 2017. From there, the Eagles hired Wilson as their passing game coordinator, DB's coach for the 2019 season before he joined the Ravens in the same role. Then in 2024, Wilson was hired as the Titans defensive coordinator and has remained in that role over the past 2 seasons, man. And through his coaching staff, he's learned under Greg Williams and Todd Bowles over the years. So this is a guy that has seen it, been there, done that, you know, learning under some of the greater defensive minds in football history. And in 2025, specifically, the stats don't look that good on the surface, but stay with me. I'm going to give you the overall stats of how the season went. And again, I want you to keep in the back of your mind that the very reasonable excuses of the personnel he had to work with, there's a reason the defense was this bad, but at the same time, still not as bad as with Joe Wood Jr. and Dan Quinn produced with similar circumstances of bad personnel and injuries. But either way, opponents' points per game, they were 28th in the NFL. Opponents' yards per game, they were 21st. Opponents' points per play, they were 31st, which was ugly. Then opponents' yards per play, they were 28th, ugly. But third down conversion allowed, they were 16th. That's around average. Then fourth down conversion allowed, they were 32nd. That was really ugly. Opponent red zone scoring percentage, touchdown-wise, 28th in the NFL. That's not good. And opponents' touchdowns allowed per game, 29th in the NFL with 3.2. But stay with me. And I keep doing that with the whole sleeper thing, but I'm just keeping that up there and still talking. I mean, I just be in the flow with things, man. I apologize, but either way, shouts out to Paul Kurharski. I hope that's how you pronounce his name. But he pointed out, this was a tweet he put out back in December 2nd. of this past season. So just like a little over a month ago, he said in the last 4 games over the course of 5 weeks, including the bye week, the Titans defense has played no-name corners and it's been without its best pass rusher in Draymond Jones because he was traded for 3 of them. And still it's ranked in the top 10 in NFL in missed tackles with 18. That was first. Yards after contact, 406. That's first. Total rushing yards, 400. First. That's sixth. Total yards, 1,398. That's seventh. Sacks, 13. That was seventh. Third down efficiency, 34.8. That's eighth. And yards after catch, 402. That's eighth as well. The downside, though, 29th in receiving yards per play, which is 12.9, and 30th in turnovers by only forcing 1. And I'm pretty sure the Commanders had to be 31st and the Jets had to be 32nd. But either way, still, considering the circumstances, Dinard Wilson and the defensive staff and the players on the field have done some rather remarkable work. The offense generally gives them literally no chance. 13 other teams also had buys in that stretch as well. But again, to that point, they were first in missed tackles. They were first in yards after contact allowed. I mean, this is the stuff that he got out of like a short, like a November run this past season. Dinard Wilson was producing those types of stats. But you do have to remember also, like, he had Jeffrey Simmons balling, like, specifically. And he's a great player on his own, granted. But this past season, you could argue that he was right there behind Myles Garrett as far as defensive players being the best in all of football right now. You know what I'm saying? And I think Dinard Wilson deserves a lot of credit for that. Even Jeffrey Simmons will give him credit for that. But just to prove the point, shouts out to Benjamin Sollick. Jeffrey Simmons is probably 2025 DT1. Just has been ridiculously dominant in both phases, stopping the run and rushing the passer. And nobody wins faster in the entire NFL. Also, shouts out to Nate Tice back on December 2nd saying Jeffrey Simmons is very, very strong. And it's like a clip of him just absolutely dominating the Jaguars offensive line. And Football Instincts pointed out the fact that at that point in the season, Jeffrey Simmons ranked first among all interior defensive players in ESPN pass rush win rate with a 19% and Pro Football Focus pass rush grade with a 90.9. Imagine him and Myles Garrett in positive game scripts, and that's a great point too. Myles Garrett and Jeffrey Simmons are playing as well as they are, and specifically rushing the quarterback as well as they are, while their teams are usually down, so their opponents aren't even passing the ball as often as a lot of these other teams, and their elite edge rushers have the chance to rush the passer to do. So, man, that is a great point as well. And then shouts out to Dinard Wilson. He said if the record was different, we'd be talking about Jeffrey Simmons in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation, and I agree. That's him backing his player. And on top of crediting Dinard Wilson for challenging him and constantly staying on top of him to be great and keep getting even better and better, Jeffrey Simmons also said in his exit interview just a week ago that he understands it's not up to him, but if it was his way, he'd love to have Dinard Wilson back with the Titans as their defensive coordinator now that they're making a head coaching change, and we'll see how things play out there. But, I mean, could Dinard Wilson, with as much as Jeffrey Simmons loves this guy, could he somehow get Adam Peters to trade for Jeffrey Simmons? Remember, Simmons listed the Commanders as one of the 3 teams that he wanted to be traded to before that November trade deadline this past season, just a couple of months ago. So, and then if you add his defensive coordinator from the Titans over here, we would easily and by far probably be his number 1 landing spot, and you could definitely afford it, at least cap space wise. I don't know about draft pick trade wise, but you can afford it cap space wise with Deron Payne potentially getting let go. Marshall Lattimore, I mean, I've had so much to talk about and covering all of these coaching interviews and stuff like that, coaching updates. I haven't had the chance to talk about Marshall Lattimore getting arrested, so stay tuned for that video as well at some point. But even Jamal Adams, he said back in 2024, before the season even started, and now granted, Jamal Adams fell off a cliff as far as talent and production goes, but he said that Dinard Wilson was the main reason that he wanted to sign and play with the Titans on their defense. And the Titans weren't necessarily a good team, so that was purely just, I know we may not be good as an overall team, we may not win a lot of games, but I want to play for Dinard Wilson. And if we want to look for younger and less established players that he's developed, because Jeffrey Simmons, I know a lot of y'all are hearing, well, anybody could have made Jeffrey Simmons look good, and I get it. How about some other guys? How about some examples of guys that weren't that good at first? Dinard Wilson got a hold of them, and then they became really good. I feel like and there's several examples, but the most notable one is that Cedric Gray linebacker that went from barely even making the roster at some point to becoming a really solid linebacker by the end of the season. Pro Football Focus graded him the 8th best linebacker in the entire NFL this past season. Better than Nick Bolton, Jordan Brooks. We have Drew Tranquil, Jahad Campbell. You have Edgerrin Cooper, Leo Chanel, Dre Greenlaw, Roquan Smith, my Georgia dog, Carson Swessinger, who was having a great season. Foyesade Olakun, remember the Falcons linebacker that went to the Jaguars? That was a big deal. You have TJ Edwards, Aziz Al-Shair, Isaiah McDuffie, Jamal Adams even included, but Tremaine Edmonds. We can keep going on and on and on. Even my boy Nakobe Dean, who's ranked 42nd. Again, 7th best linebacker in football, right behind Bobby Wagner, Demario Davis, Zach Bond, Devin Bush, Devin Lloyd, Jack Campbell, and of course Fred Warner was number 1. I would love to find the linebacker that dethrones Fred Warner, from being the best linebacker in football. Hopefully Washington finds a chance to get him, because remember, Adam Peters, one of the main people that wanted Fred Warner to go to the 49ers, and look how that's ended up. So maybe Adam Peters is a decent eye for linebacker talent. We need better linebacker developers. Incoming, Dinard Wilson. Because meanwhile, specifically, Cedric Gray was the 2nd highest graded run defense linebacker in the entire NFL, only behind the Lions' Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell had a 93 grade, and it's a closer grade from the first guy, Jack Campbell, to Cedric Gray than it is Cedric Gray to the guy that's 3rd in Jordan Brooks, because Cedric Gray has a 92.7 run defense grade, and then Jordan Brooks has a 92 run defense grade, and it just keeps going down and down and down. Fred Warner's 4th in run defense, Bobby Wagner's 5th. Again, they felt like Cedric Gray was worthy of 2nd best run defending linebacker in the entire NFL. And if you also look at his other grades, what's holding him back from being ranked higher in overall grade was his coverage grade with the 59, which is still better than Jordan Brooks below him, better than Bobby Wagner below him as well. And now, granted, speaking of Bobby Wagner, elite run defense, but struggling in coverage. That literally sounds like 2025 Bobby Wagner. Not Bobby Wagner in his prime, but the 2025 Bobby Wagner we just saw. Very good against the run, but not so good in coverage. Literally the same guy, but a huge difference is that Cedric Gray is only 22 years old. So he has so much more potential to continue to get better. His athleticism has not gone away yet. If anything, he hasn't even entered his prime yet. But now going back Commanders-wise after that, small segue right there. We need not only every bit of linebacker development that we can get over here, but to be even more specific, we need somebody that can improve our tackling at every level and position in our defense. Tackling was horrible for our linebackers, safeties, corners, and even our defensive linemen at times. Give me that. Dinard Wilson has shown, even with just Cedric Gray alone, he can make you a way better tackler and run defender. But linebacker development, even just in general, is super key for the future of our defensive success, no matter who we hire as defensive coordinator. And again, Dinard Wilson has shown the ability to develop linebackers very well. Again, Cedric Gray went from barely not even making the roster to the 2nd best run defending linebacker in all of football, according to Pro Football Focus. Now, granted, Jordan McGee has shown serious flashes and is young and fast. But then after that, it's old Bobby Wagner that honestly shouldn't be brought back next year. It's Frankie Louvu, who didn't play well this past year and is only getting older as well. And then it's a bunch of young and inexperienced guys that Dan Quinn refused to give any playing time, even after we were already mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, which was coaching malpractice from him. But also that may just speak to the fact that Kane Madrana and Ale Cajo are just that unseasoned and that unready to go out there and contribute to winning football. So right now, our linebacker situation is ugly. It would be nice to bring in a guy that knows how to develop linebackers, because you could argue that's probably one of our biggest worries on the entire team as far as what are we going to do at linebacker this next year, and especially going into the future. And another point that people may not necessarily think about, Cam Ward developed pretty nicely throughout the year, and the NFL seemed to really slow down for him, like the game slowed down. And the defense he faced every day in practice plays a role in that. And Wilson even said at some point in the middle of the season that they were, quote, throwing the entire kitchen sink at him in practices, unquote. So I like a defensive coordinator that can challenge a young and very talented quarterback, because we have one of those, to get better every single day in practice. I mean, at the very least with Wilson, we aren't just going through the motions and doing the bare minimum in practices. We are trying to make both the defense and the offense better by challenging each other in different ways all of the time, keeping things fresh, keeping things cutting edge, to where Jaden Daniels, for example, in this scenario, if we were to hire Dinard Wilson, when he gets to games on Sundays, it's not like he's ever going to see or experience anything new. It'll be just like simple, because I've been dealing with this all week in practice anyway, leading up to the game. And now moving on, how about tendency wise? Well, one part of his defensive identity is how he wants his corners to play. And I know y'all absolutely hate it, because I did too, how much our corners played super far off the line of scrimmage, super far away from the wide receivers before the ball was snapped, and giving up just so much space and easy completions, especially on third down. Well, Dinard Wilson is the exact opposite of that. He said that he wants his corners to press consistently and to not allow wide receivers to have free releases into their routes. Here's a 34-second clip of him discussing that right here. You can hear it from his mouth personally.
Intentional for me, I believe press or less. Like, I want them to line up, and I want them to be in front of receivers and challenge the receivers. Ultimately, in this game, if you get free access, it's easy for the quarterbacks to complete balls. So what I do is I want to create hesitation at the line of scrimmage and make them earn it the hard way. Make them earn it, throw the 50-50 ball, but everything else we're going to challenge.
How do you approach that? Do you leave it open to them to do it, or it's you telling them?
From day one, we press everything.
And then he also said back in 2024, when he first got the job, that he likes being an attacking style of defense. So just overall, a far more aggressive defense than what we've seen here the past couple of years under Dan Quinn and Joe Wood Jr. I mean, listen to him again, say it for himself, and let me know if you like this style of defense versus the style we've had the past couple of years.
It's like anything, you learn from the people that you've been around. And obviously, I've been around a lot of great coordinators. So a lot of things that they do is entrenched in my being. A lot of the philosophies they've had, I believe in. So we're going to blitz, and when we blitz, it's going to be smart. It's going to be educated. It's going to be there at the right time. It's just not going to be reckless. We're going to play coverage. We're going to play man-to-man. We're going to be multiple in everything we do, all right, in terms of our fronts, any of those things. So we'll be versatile, all right. We'll present problems to offenses, all right, on how we approach it, and, we'll go from there.
And then even moving on from that, a Cowboys fan, shouts out to Master that, be doing stuff with Bleacher Report and stuff like that, big Cowboys fan. He said his favorite defensive coordinator candidates right now, after the Cowboys just fired Matt Eberflus, are Jonathan Gannon, Raheem Morris, Aubrey Pleasant, and Dinard Wilson. He said those would all be quality hires. Now, again, I'm not a Raheem Morris fan, so that's some weird company to be in, but at the same time, I love Jonathan Gannon potentially, so we'll see. And then Ravens fans are saying that they want one of these two scenarios the most. First scenario, head coach Clint Kubiak, offensive coordinator Jake Peetz, and defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz. Then the second scenario, Jesse Minter is head coach, Brian Daboll is offensive coordinator, and then defensive coordinator Dinard Wilson. Like, he's in the company of like a Jim Schwartz to a lot of people out there right now. And then even a Titans fan said that he wants this as his ideal scenario to play out. He said head coach John Harbaugh, offensive coordinator Tom Monken, a Georgia Dog, and special teams Bonds Fasell, and then defensive coordinator Dinard Wilson. Like, he's in people's wish list, not like, oh, okay, if we ended up getting him, I'm cool, I'd be okay, I'd be complacent, whatever, it'll be all right. He's in people's favorite best case scenario. This is who I want the most right now. I mean, and the only person that doesn't seem to like him was Arden Key, who was upset last year after one of those games. Man, look at this clip. I thought it was hilarious enough to include in this video, even though it does not help Dinard Wilson's case.
We gotta adjust. Shit, we don't adjust enough over here. We don't adjust. That's what it is. We don't adjust.
In what way? Like, yeah. You mean X and O's?
X and O's. We don't adjust.
Completely throw the defensive coordinator and single him out and throw him right under the bus by himself. No self-accountability, and I thought it was hilarious enough to keep, but I also feel like the way that Wilson responded to this, He did it so well to this criticism from his own player that was throwing him under the bus. I feel like this is a positive in Dinard Wilson's side because not only did he handle it with class and didn't throw Arden Key right back under the bus like Arden Key did with him, like that was maturity and all of that type of stuff included, but he also gave a calm and logical response and like actual examples of how my adjustments were not enough to save us. There were individual player moments that really messed us up more than adjustments. I tried. Here's the clip right here.
We adjust the whole time, you know. Sometimes you look at it in the second half. I mean, what other adjustments do we need? We lost a one-on-one ball in man coverage and we missed a tackle, and we didn't hinge on cover two. I don't know what else adjustments that we needed. You know, at this point, you know, everybody has an opinion, you know, about everything. You know, everybody needs to just stay in their lane and focus on what they need to focus on.
And then before we go, if you ask him, he thinks very highly of himself. And I love that. And it's a 1 minute and 8 second clip that I'm not going to include because the main part of it, if you want to check it out, you can see it on Paul Kaharski's Twitter. He uploaded it December 30th, 2025. But he was asked, does Dinard Wilson feel like he's earned an interview for the Titans head coaching job? He said, oh yeah, I like that confidence. This is a guy that thinks of him highly enough that he feels like he should be a head coach. If we were to get him as defensive coordinator, that sounds like a pretty good get. Now, we didn't necessarily have, you know, any all-pro selections this year. I don't know if y'all saw it, but all the all-pro selections came out today, first, second team, all of that type of stuff. The Commanders had none. Even though I feel like on the offensive side of the ball, we know Jaden and Laramie Tunsil, if we have a good year, those are all-pro level deserving players. But I don't know what we have as a potential defensive all-pro right now on that side of the ball. Like, I don't even have a guy that I can necessarily be like, maybe him. I mean, Trey Amos, if he continues to get better. I think Jordan McGee has talent, but there's a long way for him to go. It's a lot going on. I mean, Dorrance Armstrong was 5th in the NFL in sacks before he got hurt for the entire season, but I don't know. Offensively, we got a couple. I mean, maybe you want to throw Samuel Cosme in there. Maybe you feel like Terry McLaurin deserves some love. We'll see. David Blau, I think, will be all right. He has something to start with and work with. Whereas whoever we hire at defensive coordinator, if it's Dinard Wilson, boy, they have a lot of work cut out for him right now, man. Shouts out to him. If he's willing to take on this job, more power to him. We should love him. We should take him with open arms. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you about everything discussed video. Please still farm that like button, still farm the subscription button, and still farm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Really appreciate y'all for supporting every video, man. I'm surprised I even found a way to talk about a defensive coordinator candidate for 32 minutes that is not Jim Schwartz or Brian Flores. But hey, I guess I'll just pat myself on the back for that one for doing such in-depth research. And I'm pretty passionate. I'm pretty excited about this guy. I mean, he's not my #1 defensive coordinator by a long shot candidate, but you know, he's pretty solid. So let me know how y'all feel in the comment section. And of course, shouts out to Watch to the End Gang, man. If you can still hear me and see me right now, I appreciate you and salute you personally. Like, thank you, for real. Shouts out to Know the Gang that are on these videos immediately. Shouts out to the late night crew that's going to be watching this late tonight. Again, I'll be up with y'all working on more videos. And then shouts out to the early morning crew where the first thing you do is watch the StreetScores video. Appreciate all of y'all. Leave a like on the way out. And of course, more importantly than anything else, let me know in the comment section how you feel about the potential hiring of Dinard Wilson as your defensive coordinator. If you wake up tomorrow and see that Dinard Wilson has been hired as the Commanders defensive coordinator, what is your initial reaction? Let me know why or why not. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my points. Let me know why or why not there. Bring stats, bring whatever you have. Really appreciate y'all. Again, leave a like on the way out, and I'm going to catch y'all later. I'm out.